Today we are heading to a sparsely populated area close to the village of Ballinamallard on the shores of Lough Erne, County Fermanagh, and north of Enniskillen. Lough Erne is a popular haunt for fishermen and water sport enthusiasts from across the world. It is an affluent corner of Northern Ireland which boasts its own airport. During the summer planes land at the airstrip from every corner of Europe, packed with French, German and Italian fishermen. The McGinley family were one of the families that lived there. Gerry 34, Julie 29 and their 2 daughters. Julie grew up in a respectable Protestant family in Enniskillen, County Fermanagh, riding ponies and attending collegiate grammar school. But at the age of 15, her perfect world would fall apart when her mother died of a heart attack brought on by asthma. A year later, on the 8th of November 1987, Julie was in the town of Enniskillen with her younger brother on Poppy Day, when an IRA bomb exploded, killing 11 people. It would be known as the Remembrance Day bombing, the Enniskillen bombing, or the Poppy Day Massacre. The bomb exploded near the town's war memorial during a Remembrance Day ceremony, which was being held to commemorate British military war dead. The IRA would claim responsibility and say it was a mistake and its target had been the British soldiers parading to the memorial. The bombing was strongly condemned by all sides and undermined the support of the IRA and the political party Sinn Féin. Julie became separated from her brother, and it would be later recorded by a woman who saw Julie after the bomb exploded. The wee girl Julie, her shoes blown off and her feet streaming with blood. She was hysterical looking for her brother, turning over bodies in the street, trying to find him. Her brother had been brought to the hospital, where they were reunited. This is an actual photograph of Julie's brother being carried under the arm of a man to safety after the bombing. Julie, among others injured, received no post-trauma counselling. Within 6 months the following year, Julie was involved in 2 serious riding accidents. In the worst of the 2, her horse was killed beneath her on impact with a stone bridge after swerving to avoid an oncoming car. Again, she received no counselling for the trauma. A few years later, she went to live with her sister in Australia, but after a while she returned to Enniskillen and started working for British Telecom call centre. Then one day in March 1994, fate intervened when her work supervisor needed a new exhaust for her car, and Julie went with her to the garage. There she would meet an unremarkable looking man, a Catholic from Manorhamilton, County Leitrim, a former Irish champion boxer standing at 5'8" tall and weighed about 16 stone. Gerry McGinley had called on the same garage to get repairs done to the lorry he was driving. He had secured this job at a haulage company in the north after being released from prison in the Republic in 1992. What was he in prison for, you might ask? He was tried and convicted to 9 years in prison for the rape of a Garda's wife, so not a pillar of the community by far. But Julie was no saint either. She got a name for herself and was seen as promiscuous and had got with many soldiers and UDR men. Many people that knew Julie said she had changed after all the trauma she had gone through. I think it was a case of not giving a damn anymore. She did what she liked, when she liked and with who she liked. Her father was heartbroken when she linked with Gerry. Mixed marriages would not have been looked upon kindly back then. She a Protestant and he a Catholic. They married 7 months after their first meeting, on Saturday the 15th of October 1994. Julie wore her sister-in-law's wedding dress. Straight after the wedding, things went bad between them. On their honeymoon in Listonvarna, County Clare, Gerry would attack Julie, slashing her with a knife and beating her. This would lead them to cut their honeymoon short and return to Enniskillen. Just after their 3rd anniversary, Julie would wake up to the lights of Gerry's Jeep shining through their bedroom window. She got out of bed and looked out at the garden, and there she would see Gerry hanging from her daughter's swing. He had used the dog's choke lead to hang himself. She ran out and cut the leather lead with a knife, saving him. Gerry spent 3 days on life support in Erne Hospital, and preparations were being made to have him committed to Tyrone and Fermanagh Hospital in Omagh. But Julie was having none of it and insisted on bringing him home. Why she would do this? This is the first of many whys, unfortunately. After Gerry got home, things only got worse. The domestic violence continued, and he would coerce her into having sex with other men in order to extract money from them. She said she was pulled into a vortex of sex and blackmail involving prominent businessmen and farmers in Fermanagh. Later, police would uncover how the McGinleys had hatched a plot to extort thousands of pounds from men with whom Julie had sex with. The men were seduced by Julie and brought to rooms at the Fort Lodge Hotel in Enniskillen. The hotel owners and staff were totally unaware that the rooms had been hired to ensnare men in a blackmail sting. Gerry had video cameras in the room and filmed Julie having sex with them. Tapes of the sex sessions were then sent to several of the men involved. By December 1999, Julie had had enough and decided to leave with the children. She lived with her father at first and then moved into rented accommodation. In the months that they were apart, both Julie and Gerry were involved in different relationships. Julie started dating a local businessman. Julie would say that Gerry threatened to take his own life if she did not return to him, that he poured yellow paint on the businessman's windows and headbutted the passenger window of his Jeep. She claimed it was then he threatened to show the sex tapes to her father if she didn't return with the children, and so she did. At the end of February 2000, McGinleys decided to set up a furniture shop called Direct Furniture. They eventually went into partnership with a man named Michael Monaghan. He and his Sligo-born wife, whom he married in Rome in 1989, had run a furniture restoration business in Enniskillen, next door to the company run by the businessman Julie had been seeing and who Gerry had attacked. Julie would be constantly in and out of Monaghan's store, telling him stories of Gerry's violence towards her. Soon Monaghan would fall for Julie's charms, and he became infatuated with her. They would be seen kissing in his van, and even one time they were seen having sex in a car that was parked at the back of the store units. Julie told Monaghan that she wanted to get rid of Gerry. Their furniture shop was not going well, and they were £100,000 in debt. They had a life insurance to the value of £310,000 on Gerry, and he was also in the way of her love affair with Monaghan. In June of 2000, Julie, Gerry and the girls returned from holiday in Gran Canaria, and a plot was already hatched by Monaghan and Julie to get rid of Gerry. Drugs were planted in Gerry's car, and a man named Tony McNairn informed the Gardaí. He was able to supply Gardaí with the location, registration and type and colour of the car Gerry was driving, and where the drugs were stashed in the car. When the Gardaí stopped and searched Gerry's BMW, they found drugs that had been planted by Julie. Gerry was arrested south of the border and charged with trafficking drugs from the north to the south. If he was to be tried and convicted, he would have faced a lengthy prison sentence because of his previous conviction for raping the Garda's wife. When tests were done on the drugs seized, it was determined that they consisted of crushed up E-tablets and spices to the value of £830 and not £10,000 like it was suggested by the informant. Julie went to the Garda station where Gerry was being held and told Gardaí that Gerry was being set up. It would be later concluded that she did this to throw suspicion of herself by her husband. 2 months later, on the 12th of August 2000, Julie and Gerry went to Fort Lodge Hotel in Enniskillen for Julie's birthday. Julie had called to a woman down the road on Friday, the 11th of August, asking her daughter to babysit the following night. The daughter told her she could not, but the mother offered to take Julie's girls into her home and look after them there, but Julie declined this offer. On the night of the 12th, Gerry rang another babysitter, and she agreed to do it. He picked up the babysitter, who lived less than a mile away. Gerry had also called Monaghan and invited him out that same night. He was not aware of the affair. It was said that when the group arrived at the hotel, Gerry was in good spirits. Gerry was drinking a little more than usual, and Julie had given him a whisky before they left the house. They arrived home at around 2:30 a.m, a lot later than the 1 a.m. time they had given the babysitter. The babysitter asked where Gerry was, and Julie told her he was around the back of the house. As they were leaving the yard, she saw a man wearing a white t-shirt and blue jeans coming around the side of the house. It was not Gerry, as he had been wearing a blue shirt and blue jeans. Julie would state later that it was Gerry, that he had bought his shirt too small and had taken it off, and so had a white t-shirt underneath. But our Julie was going to end up being pretty sparse with the truth. She would deny, lie and manipulate the people around her, and try and beat the justice system. She would say that when she arrived back to the house after dropping the babysitter at home, Gerry asked her to ring Monaghan to come to the house to continue drinking. Sometime after 3:30 a.m, Monaghan arrived along with the man, PJ McFadden, carrying cans of beer. Gerry was in the bedroom and PJ went to get him. He walked into the bedroom and it was then Julie heard her husband shouting. There were crashing noises and the sound of commotion. Monaghan headed to the bedroom and Julie went to the girls' bedroom. She said she was terrified by what was happening and was very concerned that the girls would be disturbed and distressed by the noise. She stated then that McFadden emerged from the bedroom, went into the bathroom and threw up. Monaghan came out and said Gerry was dead. She then claimed that Monaghan then said she would have to cover for him or the IRA would be after them all. She redecorated the bedroom, burned the bed sheets and replaced the carpets and duvet covers. That first week, Gerry disappeared. On Tuesday night, the 15th of August, she finally rang her father-in-law. She told him that Gerry had disappeared, leaving home on the Sunday morning. She told him that Gerry had left in a car, that she had been awakened by the sound of him putting his clothes in a bag. Gerry said to her, "I'm going, you don't know how they work." Gerry seemingly had been under threat by the real IRA in early 2000, and as a result, Gerry and his family went to stay at the family home of the McGinleys. Gerry had been told of the threats by the police. A code name had been used which made them more likely to be authentic. He had taken clothes and £1,000 in cash. It would turn out that in March of 2000 Julie had paid a top Republican terrorist who was based in Donegal to put coded death threats on Gerry's life in the months before he disappeared. This guy then made 2 coded threats against Gerry through 2 local priests who informed the police. It turned out that this leader was using his IRA credentials for personal financial gain, and the threats were not real. At the time, sources say, Julie would have been aware the man was a leading Republican dissident involved in the IRA, but may not have known that he had also been involved in the Provisional IRA, and specifically the Enniskillen bombing that she and her brother were injured in. Julie's idea was that Gerry would be murdered by this man. Julie and Monaghan would pay him thousands of pounds, and this man would not carry out the killing. This later revelation shows how far Julie, a Protestant, was willing to go to get rid of her Catholic husband. On Thursday, the 17th of August, Gerry's father went to see Monaghan in his shop and asked him had he seen him. He told him he hadn't seen Gerry since the close of business on Saturday, the 12th of August. When he approached Julie about reporting Gerry missing, she said she didn't want to, as he would kill her when he came back if she did report him missing. So while Gerry's father wanted to report his son missing, Julie did not. That same week, a local policeman got in contact over an overdue fine. He spoke to Julie and she spinned him the same tale as she did her father-in-law. The sergeant asked her if she wanted to report Gerry missing, but she said no, as Gerry's father said to leave the police out of it. This was untrue. Finally, on the 18th of August, Julie reported Gerry missing and told them of the circumstances of him leaving. Over the next few weeks, she made several statements to the police concerning the night Gerry went missing, the clothing he was wearing and how he had left through fear of the real IRA, and that he had left with someone driving a blue Toyota with Republican registration plates on the car. Gerry's vehicles were brought in to be forensically tested. She stated that she had brought Gerry a Next watch, but didn't think he had brought it with him. This watch would be later found in the charred remains of a fire near the home. One of the sergeants visited the McGinley home and entered the bedroom and noticed fresh paint on the walls, a new carpet and new bed linen. Julie admitted that the room had been redecorated the week Gerry went missing and that she had done most of it, with PJ laying the carpet and Monaghan getting rid of most of the furniture in the room. By March 2001, Julie was arrested and interviewed once again. She was asked about her affairs during her marriage and while they were on a break. Julie named at least 2 people she had been seeing, but refused to admit she was seeing Monaghan, and Monaghan would go on to deny the affair also. She refused to admit that she ever received love letters from him and ever sent text messages stating her love for him. She was asked about their holiday in Gran Canaria and the life insurance policy. Julie claimed to not know it was worth over £300,000. It was put to Julie that her statements were ever changing from interview to interview. that she had said that Gerry had left because he thought the IRA were after him, to him thinking the Gardaí were setting him up. She agreed that Gerry did not bring his mobile phone or passport. During these interviews, Julie was a matter of fact, arrogant and belligerent, even using the detective's first name when speaking to him. She spun lie after lie when being questioned. She told the detectives to get to the point, or when she didn't want to answer a question, she stated no comment. When Julie's house was searched and Monaghan's clothes were found at her house, she said she did his washing for him and PJ, as they had no wash machine at their flat. By the final interview, Julie, on the advice of her solicitor, had completely stopped cooperating. Monaghan was also arrested and questioned at the same time in January 2001, and unlike before, he admitted that he was having an affair with Julie. This was evident to the police, as semen was found on the marital bed in the McGinley home that belonged to him after DNA tests were done. Forensics were also done on the fire outside in the back garden, where the next watch was found, and the remainder of clothes that turned out to belong to Gerry McGinley that he was wearing on the night of the 12th of August when he disappeared. Cleaning and decorating equipment was also found in the remnants of the fire. On Friday the 23rd of March 2001, Julie, Monaghan and PJ Padden were all charged with murder and perverting the course of justice by removing Gerry's body from the house where the murder is alleged to have taken place. All three pleaded not guilty. Julie and Monaghan were denied bail at Omagh Crown Court in May of 2001, but PJ was granted bail under certain conditions. In June 2001, nearly a year after he went missing, Gerry's body was found in dense woods outside Ballinamore in County Leitrim, in the Republic of Ireland, and an hour away from his home in County Fermanagh. The body was found by a schoolgirl walking in the woods. The body was badly decomposed, naked, and his hands and feet had been removed. He had to be identified through dental records. In September 2002, the trial began at Belfast Crown Court to ensure Julie and Monaghan got a fair trial. PJ Padden had his murder charges dropped. During the trial, Mr Justice Kerr had to impose an injunction on newspapers, forbidding them to use a picture of Julie carrying a book to court. The book, titled Gangsters, was clearly visible. The defence counsel argued that the picture would have prejudiced her case. The trial would go on for 3 months, and in December 2002, both Julie and Monaghan were found guilty of murder. In January, they were both sentenced to life in prison. Julie was described by the judge as shrewd, devious, and a quick-witted liar. He also said, "The determination to carry out this murder was clearly callous and chilling, especially when one considers it had to be executed while 2 young girls, scarcely more than infants, lay sleeping in the house." After Julie was jailed, her past as a prostitute emerged, as did her involvement in a series of video blackmail plots involving her clients that netted her thousands. A lot more came out in the trial through Gerry's parents, and I'd say a bit closer to the truth than Julie could ever muster up. Between Christmas and New Year 2001, Gerry had thrown Julie out of the house after finding out she was having an affair. 2 weeks later, she had produced a letter that said she had cancer and asked him to take her and the children back, and so he did. In June, they went on a family holiday abroad that she claimed she had won through work. After they came back, Gerry's parents found an envelope in Gerry's lorry about an apartment she'd bought over there by forging Gerry's signature. Gerry had bought a baseball bat for protection. This is the baseball bat that would be used to kill him. He told his parents that he was terrified. He moved his family and every stick of furniture out of the house so they would be safe. He slept kneeling on a mattress on a window ledge with the baseball bat by his side, waiting for whoever might come. Of course, after Gerry's death and Julie's conviction, their 2 daughters were kept away from Gerry's family, and they are not allowed to see them. Julie and Monaghan appealed their sentences, and Julie admitted she was in the house that night her husband was killed after a row with Monaghan. She said she had been told that Gerry lifted a bedside locker and thrown it at Monaghan, and then attempted to grab the baseball bat. Monaghan said he had to keep hitting Gerry to keep him back, and if Gerry had wrestled the bat off him, he would have killed everyone, children included. Julie had said she had remained in her children's bedroom and they knew nothing about what had happened. Afterwards, her husband's body was wrapped in plastic and taken away in the van. His clothes were burned and the blood-spattered bedroom was redecorated. Monaghan later told her the body was south of the border, but never said where. "At no time did I plan to kill my husband or conspire to have him killed," she said. "I know I should have reported the matter to the police, but I was panic-stricken and overwhelmed." Yeah, right. During the appeal, it was suggested by a psychiatrist that Julie suffered from symptoms of dependent personality disorder, which would have made her abnormally vulnerable or susceptible to pressure from her co-accused Monaghan. Such a disorder is characterised as a pattern of excessive need to be taken care of that leads to submissive behaviours and fear of separation. This includes features such as requiring excessive reassurance to make everyday decisions, needs for others to assume responsibility, fear of being alone, quickly seeking another close relationship if one ends, overlooking objective problems in order to maintain relationships, and fear of disagreeing with others for fear of alienating them. Given this, whilst Julie would have intellectually been aware of her actions and their possible consequences, her personality disorder would have strongly influenced her behaviour regardless of this. Dr. Pollock, a consultant forensic clinical psychologist, then submitted his report to the appeal judges. He stated that despite Julie experiencing traumatic events during her teenage years, she did not develop any symptoms of mental disorder, and on the basis of her educational records, she appears to have been a resilient, strong-willed, determined person who was considered emotionally well-adjusted to take up a position in the RUC. She was able to make her own decision to leave school early in order to travel to Australia. There is no evidence to support a diagnosis of dependent personality disorder from the documents that he had read. Both appeals were denied. Lord Justice Sir Michael Nicholson said after the hearing he was satisfied that Julie would lie and lie again to serve her own purpose. In February 2015, it was reported that Julie had been released back into the community to adapt for her full release in early 2016. As a Phase 3 working out prisoner from Hydebank Women's Prison in South Belfast, she has secured a job in a local shop. Her release terms were a ban from Enniskillen town or immediate outskirts, a ban on contact with relatives of her victim, and a ban on taking any alcohol or drugs or entering licensed premises. Julie is notorious in Enniskillen and still has many enemies there. She is being regularly monitored by prison and probation staff while living outside the prison. She spends as little as 2 nights a month in the prison. Not only this, but she also found herself a new man when she was behind bars. It is understood that when fully freed, she will move in permanently with her lover, who she met when the BBC journalist was interviewing female inmates about life behind bars. Rumours of the affair first reached BBC bosses in 2012. Sources said the TV veteran, who was behind some of Northern Ireland's leading local programmes, was hauled before bosses and admitted that he had fallen for the conniving killer. As of 2023, she is running her own dog-minding business in Belfast, and I presume she got married and is living her best life. As for Monaghan, he was released in 2017 and is working as a landscaper in the Republic of Ireland. As for Gerry, there's not a lot I can say about him. He was no saint, for sure. As for Julie, saying how she was treated by him cannot be confirmed, and she didn't drop many truths during her interviews with the police, and many of her stories were disproven, and she constantly contradicted herself. I would think that she was guilty, especially when all her appeals failed and her conviction was deemed safe. She is definitely a woman that won't be forgotten, and Gerry's family, like others, must bear the loss of their family member.